What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 140 of the Chumpcast. It's finally here, the episode you've all been waiting for, Endgame. Our old friend Eman joined us to break down all the action and ridiculousness. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel, Eman's Movie Reviews, for more in-depth coverage of everything nerdy. You can find us on all social media platforms at the Chumpcast. You can also call, text, or leave us a voicemail at 847-920-6107. Thanks to our friends at Family Video for sponsoring the show. If you collect DVDs or Blu-rays, you can get some awesome deals through the chumpcast.com/familyvideo. They have ridiculously low prices on new releases, and they're always updating their selection. I'm looking right now at copies of Into the Spider-Verse, aka the best movie of 2018, Aquaman, and way more, all for under $10. Also, our horror junkies out there know Arrow Video. They're the kings of redistributing old school schlocky horror. Right now, you can get brand new releases of Blu-rays like Donnie Darko, Wes Craven's original The Hills Have Eyes from 1977, 12 Monkeys, and way more at deep, deep discounts. You can find our merch at thechumpcast.com. Check out patreon.com/thechumpcast for all sorts of bonus content and more goodies. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm currently making a list of all the things that Brick is completely wrong about, and this could take a while. And we'll just kick this off. Like, this is the culmination of pretty much everything that we've done for the last 3.5 years. Eman, what was your first video about?
Oh, geez. Well, like, ever?
Yeah.
Or just, was it Ex Machina? It might have been that.
That's not a bad start.
Ex Machina? Nice.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I think it might have been one of those movies. It was that or Jurassic World.
I hope it was Ex Machina for your sake.
It could be. It could be. Because I started the YouTube channel. I was so scared to do it, too, around 2015. So I want to say it might have been that.
So that voice that you're hearing on the other end of our stream here is Emmanuel Noisette, a.k.a. Eman from Eman's Movie Reviews. Find him all over social media, mostly Facebook, YouTube channel. Getting a lot of press this week. I just saw you on, what was that, ABC News?
Yeah, doing big things.
NBC? Sorry, pardon me. I don't want to throw out the wrong outlet there.
I don't want to get sued either.
You got anything else major planned for network premieres or what?
You know what? Look, not to my knowledge, but you never know. I'm just here I'm just a guy trying to make some fun videos, minding my business. Now, if a news reporter wants to talk to me, I'm not going to push them away.
But didn't you rent out or have like a whole theater? I saw you uploaded a photo of like 100 tickets or so. Weren't you hosting this whole screening?
For months, and I mean, call me Eman Nostradamus if you like. But I knew, I was like, look, if Infinity War could cause tickets to just sell like crazy, I knew that Endgame was going to be even worse.
Oh, 100%.
And so what I started doing was I was telling people like, look, I will get these tickets for you. I do charge people to come to my events, but I don't charge them like a ridiculous amount. So like people think that I'm like rich or something. I am not rich, like at all. But what I do is I say like, hey, give me like, 5, 10, whatever bucks or whatever. You're not paying more than what you would for the ticket. Yeah. But what I'll do is I will buy the tickets in advance. So I bought like over 100 tickets, and then people will just come in to my event, and I'm giving you still free popcorn. I'm giving you movie merchandise. I mean, it's a bunch of fans just coming together. So whatever you probably would have paid for a ticket, you're getting 10 times more than that just by coming to my event. So that at least helps offset some of the cost. I mean, I still, pay for most of it. But yeah, I mean, we all just came out, had a good time. We did the same thing for Black Panther. Endgame was bigger,
Endgame was ridiculous, man. Yeah. Just the people waiting to get into the theater for that movie.
Seriously, it really was.
Yeah, and that's part of that. I was going to save that for my Best Man Alive because I think Eman deserves some credit for that.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
we'll jump the gun on that. I should have just joined in on your screening because AMC's website was down for a full 6 hours, and I was pissed. I didn't get to see it until, I saw it originally on like small format screen, which I know cry a river for me, but I would have liked to see it in IMAX first time.
Oh yeah, Navy Pier would have been amazing.
we might as well just go with this because it's not spoilers anyways, but what was your theater experience like for Endgame? Because mine was full to the brim, obviously. Really loud, really rambunctious. And I'm curious if that was just like everything.
In theater or before?
In theater.
Because I posted a video about what I was going through right before I was gonna hit my screening and watch it. And I was having like nerves. I had the nervous tinkle. I had to go pre-tinkle on top of that. Like, it was a whole 9. But in theater, keep in mind, like, I'm going with press, right? So I'm, Richard Roper's sitting behind me somewhere. I'm sitting next to some radio DJs or whatever. I was like, I don't care. I'm a fan. I wasn't there being a critic at that point. I was there being a fan. And I mean, Jesus, when certain scenes came up, like the big climactic scene at the end, oh my gosh, like I probably screamed a couple times. I'm sure I yelped a couple times, but yeah, I mean, I just fanned out, completely out, and I didn't care because I'm like, look, this took me 10 plus years to get here.
Yeah.
Like I'm not about to sit here and be the little reserved critic and just be like, oh, that's an enjoyable moment. Let me take a note here and jot that down for later. Nah, man, I ain't got time for that.
You've been through all 22 movies
ass.
To that point.
I don't care.
At some point, though, like Mark texted me after we got out of the screening, and he was like, what did X character say at this point? Because he didn't actually hear it because everybody was screaming or clapping or whatever. And dude, when they talked about Captain America's butt, the girls in the audience went nuts.
Screaming.
I'm sure.
And you're missing half of what Captain America is trying to say. And you're like, all right, I didn't catch that at all. But my main problem was I went to the East Illinois by Michigan Avenue Theater in Chicago, which has the bowling alley, the arcade, everything. And it's the biggest movie theater with the most theaters. And I walk in there and the lobby I had a 6:15 showing and there are maybe 300 people in the lobby lined up. And I'm like, oh shit, is this the line to get into this movie? Cause I'm like getting in 10 minutes before the movie starts. They're like, no, we're here for the 7:15. So people were just lined up out the door. I wasn't as nervous because I went alone and I'm like, okay, I should be okay, which I was fine grabbing one seat, randomly. It was absolutely nuts. And I was in one of those theaters that isn't they don't have reserve seating. So, and it probably has 300 or so people watching the movie. And there was a bunch of little kids that would overclap and just try to clap at a moment to get other people to clap. And I'm like, dude, this is not fun.
Not many slow clappers. Come on.
No, thankfully. I guess the point is you're probably going to have to see it more than once because either you're going to miss something when you go take a leak or somebody's going to be yelling over a scene that you want to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can tell you one thing, like I was watching on my third rewatch, I saw it with when Tony Stark comes back and he like first notices Rocket and he tells him that, hey, I could have sworn you were a Build-A-Bear this whole time.
Yeah.
And, like that's the point where everybody starts laughing. But when you listen, Rocket actually responds and he's like, I can see that.
Yeah.
I totally missed that. And I've seen it twice.
Yeah. And it was just even funnier just because he responded, but anyway, yeah.
All right. So we're going to get the BS out of the way so that we can get into Endgame proper. There are a few news notes this week.
News to us. Boop.
So most of this is just trailers because there were some actual big trailers this week, which I was a little surprised about. I figured everybody would kind of put everything on the back burner until Endgame calms down a little bit and then get some attention. But we got an old Will Smith versus young Will Smith in Gemini Man. Mark, you were a little sour on this. I thought it looked pretty interesting. It seems like we're going to have perspectives of both the Fresh Prince and, older genie Will Smith now. But it's going to give us both, and they're obviously facing off against each other, trying to mirror one another. Mm-hmm. Eman, what's your take on this trailer?
I'm a little indifferent. And I don't know if it's Will Smith fatigue, but I've been kind of apprehensive with Smith recently just because his latest stuff hasn't really been moving, the way that it used to. The trailer, I'm wondering is, what do you want me to come and see? Because that's what the trailers are supposed to do. They're supposed to entice you. There's no mystery. that he's fighting his younger or older self. That mystery is already gone.
Yeah, it's out there.
The only thing that we really have to think about is why. Why was the mission given? Why is this happening? And I feel like that's something we'll learn pretty early in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So is the why really the biggest draw? Now, it is Will Smith. It is a big blockbuster movie. It's action. So you got me already, but I just can't feel that excited for it. Just because I don't know if the hidden truth or whatever that they figure out in this movie is going to be all that compelling and intriguing.
But Clive Owen, he's so charming.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a huge twist in this.
Of course.
It's not 2008 anymore, so.
Oh, man, that's brutal.
I don't want to nitpick, but the CGI wasn't really doing it for me when they were showing his young self. There was points later on in the trailer where I was like, okay, that looks a little bit more believable. But the initial showing of his young self CGI'd, I was like, nope.
So my understanding of the way that they do de-aging is very loose, obviously, but the more footage they have of you as a young person, like the better chance they have at recreating it, which is why in Captain Marvel, young Nick Fury looks so much better than young Coulson.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of footage. I mean, just go watch reruns of Fresh Prince and you've got Will Smith's face. Yeah. So it's pretty hard to mess that up. I thought it looked okay, but all right, fair enough.
I think it's one of those things that, like, the longer you look at it, the more you'll notice weird things about it.
We're getting real uncanny valley with this kind of stuff. It's going to get weird.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Swamp Thing. We got our first real look at this hitting DC Universe on May 31st. Eman, do you have a DC Universe subscription?
I do not, but I'm sure I have a friend that does, and they're cool, so I can...
and you can grab that password.
Yeah, exactly.
So James Wan definitely has his hands all over this. This has horror written all over it. I'm hoping that this is more like the recent comic books and not just straight horror, but Mark, what do you think? You're the DC expert. Sell me on this.
Well, do you think they're going to switch directors? Because they haven't confirmed that, have they?
Well, James Wan's not the director, but he is producing it.
Okay.
They cut this season short so that we're going to get 10 episodes instead of what I think was 13. But they wrapped this up, and the thought was they were going to wrap it up in case they get canceled or DC Universe just goes belly up. And they were going to have it where it didn't end on a cliffhanger. So I guess we're going to see how this goes. I'm going to watch it regardless because I paid for my year subscription to this.
Yeah.
But this is one of those characters that I really don't want them to screw up. It's not super mainstream, and they don't have to cater to anybody's vision of what Swamp Thing is. So I guess I just want them to do this the right way.
Yeah, you're actually more familiar with the whole story of the origin and everything around Swamp Thing. That's one character I'm truly not as familiar with.
He's a big plant monster. You don't have to be that familiar.
Yeah, I mainly know him from the Injustice games.
That's fair.
Just picking him, but I've never read the comics. I know they're actually great. Yeah, it looks cool. They showed us a little bit of the teaser trailer, and that's
you'll
really
be
all
watching
we have.
it. It doesn't matter. You'll watch it.
Yeah.
Men in Black International dropped their first real trailer this week, and it's basically Tessa Thompson spent her childhood tracking down the Men in Black headquarters, and she finally found it, which makes her an agent now, I guess.
Yeah.
So they send her to Europe to work with Thor and catch some aliens. Who's going to rap the theme song for this? Is it Tessa Thompson or is it Chris Hemsworth?
I think they're going to have like Travis Scott just do a song for it or something. Something like that's going to happen.
They could have Liam Neeson do it.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to go that route.
No, I wouldn't think so. E-Man, what do you think about this? Is this a franchise that needed to be rejuvenated?
Did it need to? No, but I'm not terribly mad that they did. Only because, it's one of those franchises that I think at this point, it's a little formulaic. So they can just do whatever they want to do and just recycle agents and, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think it'll have the same appeal that the originals had because we've seen it already.
Well, that was Will Smith at peak Will Smith.
Exactly. And I think the ship has sailed. Like, Will Smith carried that franchise more so than the franchise demanded viewership. You have no Will Smith, you probably don't have Men in Black. It'll be one of those things that we watch and I think we forget about right after.
I don't have any bad memories about Men in Black, though. I'm here for this.
I just hope they bring in a good villain, like the guy he's on his lunch break, that type guy. They need somebody like that again.
I do remember the third one, and of course it wasn't as good as the first two, but Josh Brolin, that was a Josh Brolin one, right?
Yeah.
That was Josh Brolin, yeah.
Got to give some love for Josh Brolin. I want to go back to DC real quick and mention that they did finally get a little bit wiser, and they added over 20,000 comic books to the app. So my main complaint about DC Universe at first was that they kind of picked and chose really small,
really popular story arcs, but
not what I wanted.
Shit people have read already.
Exactly. So now they're going the Marvel Unlimited route. Not quite as deep, because Marvel says anything that's been released more than 6 months ago, you can get. DC's going 12 months, which is fine, but there's going to be a lot more there, and I think it's a bigger selling point for them. I can't believe they didn't just do this in the first place. But
yeah, I took a look at it a little bit. They did add a shit ton of comics, including the most recent, like Batman Rebirth and Batman runs. They put in issues maybe 1 through 40, and they're at, I think, around 60 right now. So they put the majority of what is currently out there pretty much on there. But of course, they're not gonna put every issue that's currently up to date. But they still added a bunch in there.
Yeah. Okay. Last bit of news. Chaos Walking was supposed to be this next Hunger Games trilogy type thing, like YA story, starring Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland. Obviously, two of the biggest stars out there right now, heading up Star Wars and Spider-Man, respectively. But Doug Liman, who directed Edge of Tomorrow, is directing this, and apparently the first cut of this movie is so bad that the studio is calling it unreleasable, and they're saying that they're going to have to basically reshoot over half of this movie. So Tom Holland was not at the Avengers premiere because he's currently reshooting on this movie. They shelled out a ton of movie money for the rights to this, and boy, you better get this right. You know, this has all the star power behind it. I loved Edge of Tomorrow. Obviously, Daisy Ridley, Tom Holland. What went wrong here?
I would pay a lot of money to see the shitty cut of it.
I
really want to know how shitty it really is.
That was always my thought on, like, the Snyder cut, quote unquote. I bet it's so bad. I bet it's so much worse than what we actually got.
Don't say that to Snyder fans, man.
I don't give a shit.
Take your head off.
God, Snyder fans live in such a world of delusion that they would literally, even if it was bad, if it was Fantastic Four production quality bad, they'd still just be like, no, this is great.
You don't get it.
Because they back themselves into an ideological corner that they can't get out of. You know, the praise is so deep for Snyder. It's kind of like he could crap on everything and you'll just be like, no, it's kind of sweet. It's all right. It's just a little salty, but it's a little sweet too. You know, and it's like, no, like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in the Snyder cut personally.
I don't think it exists.
Where did the Snyder Cut cult stem from? Was that from Man of Steel? Is that how everyone really got into it?
No, that was from... Man, it's a complex thing, but I don't
Tell
know
me
how
about
deep
it. I'm
you guys want to
curious.
get
This
into
is not a
it,
DC episode, Mark. We don't care about that. We're here to talk about Endgame. Let's get through this.
I think it was Batman versus Superman where they originated from.
I could see that, yeah.
Because Man of Steel was cool, but yeah.
All right, let's keep moving with this.
Best.
We the best!
Worst.
The worst! She's the worst person in the world.
Like getting
Huge,
eaten by this couch
terrible,
right now.
Thank you.
Can't move.
This couch is actually too comfortable
Just
to do a podcast
it's
on. Like,
literally that
commercial.
those commercials a few years ago about about smoking pot and saying you shouldn't be smoking weed, and like they're literally melting in the couch. This is that couch.
Deep cut. All right, I think we're kind of going to replace this segment this week with who spoiled Endgame and why they suck. Mark, you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't have a best man alive. I have a worst man alive. LaShawn McCoy, a.k.a. Shady Ass McCoy, a.k.a. fucking Spoiling Ass McCoy. Dude, what the fuck? First of all, he went on Twitter and decided to post a video with his son, ultimately just spoiling the end of the movie that's going to have everyone's jaw dropped. And he spelled... Oh, I can't get into it because I don't want to spoil it.
Well, he spelled a name wrong, which is a very simple name.
He spelled a 4-letter name wrong. And if you're such a big Marvel fan, you should be able to spell that right. And like, why the fuck would you do that? Is that because he's not getting press anymore and wants to be relevant in the media? I have no idea.
If you know anything about the NFL and his news stories for the past year, I don't think he wants any spotlight at all. because he had some real shady stuff going on, no pun intended. But the good that came out of this was his replies, because he got roasted. I wanted to point this out because Matthew Berry, who's a fantasy football analyst at ESPN, actually is in this movie. He's in Endgame. But
that was him. I knew he looked familiar. Okay.
He responded and he said, because LaShawn McCoy tweeted out a massive spoiler for Avengers Endgame, a reminder that last year McCoy was held under 70 total yards in 10 of 14 games, was running back number 45 in points per game, and gained 5 yards plus on just 25% of carries. Basically just roasting him for being bad at his job.
That's hilarious.
And he plays for fucking Buffalo. Come on. All right.
Well, that's a lot of the responses too. And a lot of people went a little too far. Like, I hope you tear your ACL. Like, that's a bit much, but yeah, don't spoil this movie, man.
Don't fucking spoil Endgame. That's one thing.
Did you guys hear the news about the guy who spoiled it at a theater and he got jumped?
That was the Hong Kong story, right?
I don't know where it was, but
you know what? There are probably
don't spoil
a lot of these.
Just don't do it. It's just not worth it.
That's deserving, though. You're just being an outright asshole.
Oh yeah,
that kind of shit.
100%.
Well, and we posted something about, like, on our Instagram about fake spoilers. Like, send us your funny fake spoilers. And some assholes were on there in the comments, like, revealing actual spoilers. So I don't know what makes people think. I think it's just that, hey, look at me, give me some attention.
I went on a deep dive rant late last night on Facebook, only because I get a lot of people that message me spoilers, and I'm like, please don't, because if you enjoy my theories and stuff, I like to do theories because I don't know what's going to actually happen.
Yeah.
But not only that, I had people messaging me, because on my fan page, I would tell people like, hey, I saw the movie. You don't want to deal with spoilers. It's really not worth it just because of the way the movie is made. And people would go on that very post and post literal spoilers. And I'm just like, you just want attention. Like, you're that insecure. You're that needy that you just can't help yourself. And you want those 15 seconds of fame. Because there really is no other purpose around spoiling movies for other people. And it's a personal gripe for me. It's one of the main reasons why I became a film critic. Because another film critic spoiled a movie for me in the past. It's a sad, sad thing.
Well, that's why I was surprised when you said you were going to do a spoiler review. Because that's kind of your thing, is staying away from spoilers completely.
I make a couple exceptions here and there. And this was one of them. Plus, the people want one. So I'm like, okay, fine. Like, we can talk.
All right, I guess I'll allow it. That was actually going to be my worst man alive, though, is the story that I read, which is similar to yours, is it was a major theater in Hong Kong. And apparently they just beat the shit out of this guy for coming out. And it's different. I think this might be worse than LaShawn McCoy, because this guy in Hong Kong walked out to a line of people that are literally waiting to go into the theater to see it.
Oh, jeez.
So that is a very concentrated spoiler effort.
Didn't Homer Simpson do the same thing?
I got no sympathy for an ass beating that you catch for that. You got that comment.
It's bad spoiling on both ends, because LaShawn McCoy has a crap ton of followers.
Yeah.
Through social media.
Man, he got roasted, though. That was pretty funny. I guess some good came out of it. Eman, you got any more stories about spoilers?
Man, look, no, spoilers kind of trigger the worst in me, so no, I'm good, man. I don't want to.
That's what we're here for, man. We want controversy. We want conflict. Let's get into what we actually came here to do, and that is Avengers Endgame. I'll give you the little short spiel. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, 92% from fans, but that 8% negative is all DC idiots. Mark, I assume you left like a negative review somewhere for this.
You'd be surprised. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Or this is people that came in never seeing a Marvel movie and expected that they would just get this.
That is the worst.
It's kind of similar to the people that were asking, like, what do I have to watch of Game of Thrones to get the last season? Like, you had years to get this done.
How dare you?
I don't understand this. It seems like especially like major movie critics. I saw one on WGN because I was waiting for the Cubs game to start, and somebody came on. I don't know who their guy is. I totally forget his name, but it's like,
Dean Richards?
Dean's, because it's Dean's List, right? Yeah. Okay, so it's him, and he's talking about how good the movie is, and he's like, well, the downside is if you haven't seen the movies leading up to this, then you're not going to know what's going on. Well, it's not made for everybody else.
Right.
This is not a wide release thing. This is supposed to be the culmination of a story. It's essentially like releasing the second half of a movie that came out last year.
Yep.
And he's in the minority. There's obviously plenty of people that have been through all 22 movies gladly.
Yeah.
That's your fault.
But even if you've seen the last few of them, you know what's going on. But I don't know. This was also directed by the Russo brothers. I don't know why I'm saying this. Nobody cares. This is speculated budget of $350 to $400 million.
Doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter. They're going to cross it. Eman, what day is it going to cross the $1 billion mark worldwide?
I'm surprised it hasn't already. Like, it's not done yet. What is it, Saturday?
They're getting there.
I'd give it Tuesday.
Yeah, I think that's safe. They did. I saw a story not that long ago. Obviously, they're still calculating box office numbers, but it is officially the largest opening night domestic box office ever. I thought it would be a little bit harder just because this movie's over 3 hours long, just barely. But they cleared everything else out of the theater. I feel bad for anything else that released this week.
I don't. Hellboy deserved it.
Hellboy's been out for 2 weeks, and I liked Hellboy. I got a bone to pick with you on
that released this week besides Endgame?
I honestly, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know, and I don't care.
I couldn't even tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't care, and it doesn't matter.
Is this movie going to hit $3 billion and surpass your favorite movie, Avatar, worldwide?
Man, James Cameron can kick rocks. Give a shit about
I think it's going to hit $3 billion eventually.
This is the one movie that has the potential to do it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I've always told people, I was like, look, if Infinity War is still, I think, like number 4 all time, and that's only at like 2.2 billion or something like that. And I think like Star Wars Force Awakens is maybe only 20 million above that at third.
Yeah.
Endgame should surpass Infinity War, and it should at least be third all time, like easy.
I would think so, yeah.
With all those rewatches and stuff, and I would not be surprised if Marvel just so happens to make let's just say a comeback tour, and they release Infinity War and Endgame back to back in theaters. I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of pushes them over Titanic and maybe even Avatar, because I'd go watch that in the theaters if it was back to back. Why not?
I would do it just to spite James Cameron.
I'm okay with that too.
This was immediately pirated. Not that it matters, but it was like 2 p.m. on Thursday, and there was a copy of a camp. I think because it released so early in the Far East, in China and Japan.
Yeah.
I think it might have been subtitled. I think it was Chinese, but I mean, who's surprised by that? Do yourself a favor. Go see it in the theater. Pay it the respect it deserves, because it is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. So let's get this out of the way now, and stop me if I'm misrepresenting anybody, but we were all blown away by this movie.
Absolutely.
Fair?
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. The rest of what we talk about here is going to be super heavy in spoilers. I'm going to throw up on the screen right now for the Facebook stream. Says spoilers. Like, you can't accuse us of ever not warning you for spoilers. It'll be in the show notes. We'll be discussing every aspect that we want to. If you're looking for a movie breakdown of this, like plot breakdown, you're not going to get it here. Go to
Eman's page.
This is our opportunity to just dissect this as massive nerds. Is that fair?
Agree.
Okay.
I'm with it.
I'm literally putting this text up on the screen right now. Spoilers. Okay. Mark, is it fair to say that this was the most murder-heavy Marvel movie ever?
Oh, yeah, by far. Like,
Ronan got pretty gory with it.
Mm-hmm.
He put that sword right in that Asian dude's face.
Yeah, there were some definite moments that I was surprised, actually, which was another reason why I like this movie so much. But
Mark has a real bloodlust thing going on. But there were actual human deaths instead of just, robot fodder like it was in Ultron or the Chitauri. The Chitauri thing still kind of bothers me because the Chitauri didn't exist until the original Avengers. Like, they weren't ever in the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just a ripoff of the Badoon, which is... Marvel technically couldn't get the rights to it because it's a Fantastic Four villain, if I remember correctly. But they're just like this big, overwhelming alien race. And I don't even know why I went on this tangent. But what about the jackedness, Mark? Was everybody super jacked?
Everyone was super jacked, especially about Captain America's glutes.
He has some nice glutes.
He has a good glutes, good hamstring separation here right by the IT band. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So yeah, definitely everyone was excited to see that. But overall there was we're talking spoilers. So if there's jackness that you wanted to see, it was in Thor, but you get the exact opposite. And that was I didn't have many issues with it. I think we can go into that a little bit more, but one of my main issues was just seeing his whole downfall throughout the whole movie, and you just want to feel pity for him. But
I'm going to get into that a little bit later because I got a bone to pick, and I think I have a resolution for that too. But Eman, I want to ask you.
Yes, sir.
You said this is a culmination of 22 movies. Is this a satisfying resolution as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. In my review, I called this a bittersweet love letter to Marvel fans that delivers a good amount of closure.
I like the good amount part.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's some things that are intentionally left open, you know, obviously, because this isn't even the conclusion of Phase 3.
Right.
Far From Home is actually going to be that conclusion. But I was satisfied because going in, I knew that this was going to end people's arcs and their story arcs. We got a resolution with Tony Stark's character from beginning to end. Captain America got his resolution. I think the strongest ones were probably Black Widow and Hawkeye. They did give them some really good treatment. I am incredibly dissatisfied with Hulk, but we can get to that later. And Thor. I mean, like, Thor's, about to do his whole other thing, and I'm okay with what they're doing because, a friend of mine had said, if this happened to be the very last Marvel movie ever, I'd be content. And I agree with that. Like, if we were to never get anything else from here, I'm cool with what we have right now.
Don't you speak that blasphemy.
I won't. I'm just saying, in an alternate reality,
you would.
Wouldn't be too bad.
My only knock on that, and look, we already said this is a masterpiece. It's going to sound like I'm saying negative things because if I just keep saying all the things that I liked, it's going to be boring. Mm-hmm. But the way they kind of wrapped everything in a nice, neat little package, give me something. Give me a teaser into what the next major arc is going to be.
I agree. They didn't reveal any upcoming villain or potential upcoming villain, whether it be in a few years or whatever. They didn't really give the audience something to be like, okay, there might be something happening on the horizon.
So I kind of think they did. Not in terms of a villain. Unless you want to put your deep conspiracy hat on. And that one line where Tony says, when you mess with time, it messes back with you or whatever. Maybe that's Kang the Conqueror. Maybe that's a hint towards that. I can't speak to that. There was that one line from Okoye during the mission report where she talks about the earthquake under the sea. That is around where Namor is, thanks to the Iron Man 2 Easter egg. So there are a couple things. I mean, we see what happened with Loki. That's going to be a very interesting twist as well. I think what they did was they left a lot of stuff open. We don't have like a big Thanos reveal like in Avengers 1, but a lot of stuff is purposely left open for them to retroactively go back and fill in the gaps for us, especially with the streaming service shows. So
that was my thought, especially with new Cap, Falcon, and Bucky.
Yep.
They're going to, they had Cap go back and supposedly return all the stones to where they were supposed to be. If they're going to do that show with these specific characters, they could literally have, just like what they did when Falcon was actually Captain America in the comics. Steve is kind of the, command center guy in the chair, if you will. Yep. He's the Ned. And they're going back in time to fix and clip these branches that they call them, time branches or whatever. I think that would make sense. I was kind of in agreement on the Kang thing.
Yeah.
But since they just got the rights to him, he's a Fantastic Four villain. So they couldn't really have been planning that far ahead unless they absolutely knew that deal was going to close.
Man, Stan Lee predicted that close like 2 years before it was even known. So I think that they knew.
It's possible.
I think they knew. They left stuff open-ended enough where they could kind of be like, yeah, we kind of set this up. No, just have enough plausible deniability. But I think they knew. I think they always knew.
Do you think the first movie we're going to see that comes after this is a Cap Falcon movie?
No, that'll be the TV show. The first one we're probably going to see out of this is Black Widow.
Like an origin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think so. I think that's supposed to come before Eternals. I think Eternals is going to be the interesting thing because that's probably where they're going to set up the big cosmic bad guy.
Okay.
Yep.
You agree, man?
I do think so. I mean, there are a number of interesting routes that they can take with the Eternals. It really depends on how high are they going to go, and how far back are they going to go. Are we going to see the cosmic entities, like Eternity? Are we going to see Kronos, which I'd love to see because Kronos is Thanos'
dad,
grandfather.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I'd love to see Eternals end with Thanos' father being born or something like that, and we're just like, oh, look at that nice little prequel or something,
Mm-hmm.
But this to me is kind of like the uncharted territory that Marvel had with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Because I was extremely skeptical. I was like, why are you guys taking this garbage ragtag team, out of nowhere? And then, of course, they just blow us away with it. So I am shutting up. I'm just going to sit back for the ride. And I think Eternals is going to hopefully be pretty good.
I think they know what they're doing at this point.
At this point, yeah.
So do you think when Guardians 3 comes, it's going to be Thor with them? And it'll be as Guardians of the Galaxy?
As Guardians of the Galaxy? Absolutely.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It's a good mix, too. It's a good mix for for Hemsworth because he's finally realized that, his strength is comedy. And there's no reason to, to pull up from the gas on that. So
he's got such good timing.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the acting a little bit. Who was your standout, Mark? Your favorite performance?
Robert Downey Jr.
That's probably the layup answer.
Yeah.
You do
I'm a layup guy because you guys can go way more in depth into Marvel things than I can.
Not about acting. I don't know shit about acting.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this.
Chris Hemsworth was, as you mentioned, awesome too. His timing is perfect for that levity type.
I found that harder to like, just because, Eman, I won't steal your thunder on this, but oh no, your beef was Hulk. I did want to mention this because I got some messages on social media. Let's see. This came from Kyle Robinson. His argument is that they basically turned Thor into the punchline, and he doesn't necessarily get a redemption here. I would argue that they kind of did that in Ragnarok. And everything since then,
it was already set up that
he had a couple badass moments in Infinity War, but other than that, you can't really take him that seriously anymore.
He doesn't take himself that seriously anymore.
No, and I had a thought to maybe fix that. Not that it ever happened, but I was, after Tony snaps and everybody starts disappearing, obviously Thanos is the last one to disappear. And my thought was, Tony is such an arrogant person that he would snap out all the rest of the baddies except for Thanos, and they would either try to imprison him or hold a trial for him or something.
Yeah.
Thanos starts coming back and fighting and everything. Thor just comes in and cuts his head off again. Then he gets 2 chances to murder him. I think that would have given him a little bit of, retribution, or it would have resolved his big mopey bullshit.
Yeah, and I think his part in Infinity War, because he had such an impactful role towards the end, even though he's screwed up, didn't go for the head, just seeing him at the end of this movie and not really, they kind of just forgot about, in my opinion, they kind of forgot about him. They didn't give him any redemption, to your point. And so that was my one main issue.
Eman, what do you think?
I think what ended up happening was he, like you mentioned, he had his moments, right? And at some point, you have to give the final moment to Tony Stark. It just has to, because he started it all. It was only fitting, and there was always an agenda to have him finish it all. So I didn't have a problem with it, only because if anyone was deserving to do the final blow, it would, from a storytelling perspective, it has to be Tony. Because there is that hierarchy of Stark, Cap, and then Thor. Thor had his shot. Thor literally killed Thanos, well, not twice, but he already got a chance to kill Thanos. So there it was. I thought what was revealing about the fact was, even if you go and kill him, that's not going to repair the damage that you went through. You see what I'm saying? So I like the fact that, yes, he went for the head, but look what happened afterwards. He's still sulking. He's still grieving, you know, so it was a very interesting, turn for them to do that, because if he had gone for the head the second time, would that have made him, you know, lose weight and turn his life around? Probably not. So I'm okay with what they did with Thor.
Who was your standout actor in this movie?
So in my review, I put, Hawkeye and, Black Widow. Just because those two characters, dealt with, I would say, probably the most internal anguish. I felt everything that they felt. Black Widow, she has gone through her entire life of doing a lot of messed up things. And she's constantly, like, her mere presence on the Avengers is like her apology tour, you know, and I did a video actually about 5 movies to rewatch. Like, if you're lazy and you don't feel like rewatching all 21 movies prior, I just gave you 5 quick and easy dirty movies to watch right before Endgame. And they were, basically the Captain America trilogy, Avengers, and Infinity War. And if you watch those movies, the unique thing about them is the fact that they're all the same writer, and directors, except for, like, you know, 1 or 2 movies that are off. And what they did within those movies is that they showed, Black Widow constantly dealing with a lot of internal stuff going on, you know, because of her past, her, you know, all the red in her ledger, and she's constantly trying to redeem herself. So when she gets to that final moment where she does make that ultimate sacrifice, I was like, that's really telling for that character, because she's always been on a path to find that one thing that would free her guilt. And I mean, even with Hawkeye, like, I think that just goes without saying, like, you lose your family, my goodness, you can, you know.
What are you living for?
Yeah, like, as the Joker would say, all it takes is one bad day, you know, and, you know, just as a father, like, you know, I felt that. He had nothing to live for, and he was just sitting there just being reckless with his life for like 5 years. You just feel it. Like, in the fact that he volunteers for the time travel experiment, he could have died. He didn't care, you know? So yeah, I love what they did with those characters, because I thought those were the most practical and relatable situations, and the performances were top notch to me.
I think for me, this made me like Ant-Man more than I had ever liked Ant-Man. Paul Rudd was excellent.
Yeah.
You know, he's funny. He can be serious when he needs to be. Paul Rudd baby is what I needed in my life. I know it's dumb and childish, and I don't care. Talking about pissing your pants, it was right up my
That
lane.
was pretty funny. That was funny.
This is probably the funniest movie of the year so far, right?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
What else have we gotten that was even close? We haven't had any good straight comedies in a while. Last one we really saw was Game Night, maybe.
Yeah.
Or what was the one with John Cena where he butt chugs a beer? This is better comedy, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to you, Mark. What was your biggest problem with this movie?
I don't know, man. I would probably give this like a 9.5 out of 10. So there was very few. As I mentioned with Thor, I did have some gripes, but those were not unexpected just from what we had in Ragnarok. Hulk did bother me a little bit. I'm like, where the fuck are you getting all these sweaters from? Like, in that
Who makes
size?
a hoodie that big?
Why would you go to Tony Stark's funeral, like, and you got a whole suit that you had to
Casual
get fitted towards you?
Casual male XL. There you go.
Why wouldn't you just go back to your normal self? Because you obviously have plenty of suits in your closet that you can wear, but no, you're going to stay the smart Hulk and have to get a new suit. It's just like, where the fuck is he getting all these clothes?
I don't buy that, because if you could turn into the Hulk, you would never not be the Hulk.
Yeah.
That is true. And he was famous too. People liked him. Hulk out.
Yeah. The scene when they're in the diner, that was so funny. When they're like, take a picture with Ant-Man.
I thought that was
I had no idea who Ant-Man was.
But
yeah.
Eman, I'm gonna give you your soapbox now. Go off on what you wanted to go off.
Which one? I got a couple, so
go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay, man. I'm trying to give a super cut of this. First of all, the choppy editing was definitely a problem for me. And what I mean by choppy editing is very beginning, the extra convenient way that Captain Marvel just out of nowhere just so happens in the vastness of space locates Tony Stark. no direction, no location, no communication. She just pops up, Jesus Christ Superstar. Here she is to save the day. I don't like that. I thought it was very lazy writing.
Yeah.
One line of dialogue could have fixed that. We actually had a scene right after that where Rocket was like, oh, we're looking for Thanos. Hey, there was an energy signature here and there's another one there. But boom, that was it. That's all you needed to do. And you could have been like, oh, I found some signal over here. But whatever. That was bad. I hated the Master Splinter, bringing Ant-Man back to life or whatever. Like, again, super convenient. Like, it would have been better if you had just had like the security guard, going in and just pushing buttons and be like, oh crap.
What is this?
Why was Ken Jeong even in this movie?
I don't know, but that would have been a better role for him to just do. Like, why don't you just go be curious and press some random buttons, and then you do it on accident. I would have taken that.
Or you can have Michael Pena, who deserved to be in this movie more than Ken Jeong.
So deserving. So deserving.
It was extremely convenient with the rat. That was...
Yes.
And they did that super quickly. They just pan over to the car and you just see a rat hit a button and it's like, whoa, he's back.
Yeah. So that part, I was just like, you guys had a 3-hour movie. No one would have cried if you had put 2 more minutes into this movie just to explain those a little better. No one. But Captain Marvel is also one of my negatives in this movie. I thought she was incredibly too overpowered. She has 0 weaknesses. I really don't even know why she would ever need help. Like, they were like, they had the nice little all-female montage and everything. She didn't need their help. She really didn't, and it was kind of like when she's fighting Thanos, what they basically set up at this point is Captain Marvel is so powerful that the one being in the world, in this universe, Thanos, who was able to take down a fully powered Hulk, who was able to take down a fully powered Thor, who was able to take down literally all 3 Avengers in Hulk, or in Thor, Tony, and Captain America at once. You need a Power Stone to take down Captain Marvel. And it's not like it even hurt her. It just pushed her away. So at this point, it's like, what do we even need the future for? Like, she's got it covered. The only weakness she has at this point is that she can't be in multiple places at once.
Absolutely.
It's like first world Superman problems. And it's the stupidest thing to do. At least in the comics. At least. Because she was like in binary mode, whenever she gets all super shiny and stuff, which is fine. I'm totally fine with her maxing out and, being super powerful or whatever. But in binary mode in the comics, she runs out of energy. It's not something she can do all the time. And there are risks in taking that level of power. There are no risks here. She's just on. And when she's on, that's it. I've been a very big defender of her, especially in her origin movie. A lot of people were like, oh, she's just a Mary Sue character and this and that. And I'm sorry that this movie made her into that. The only reason this movie wasn't shorter was because she conveniently was out in space, doing other stuff. So that to me was trash, because it was kind of like, where do you go from here? If we were to have another villain in the future, are they going to have a Power Stone to take down Captain Marvel? And it's bad writing, in my opinion, because now you have to take it up to a new level. And I don't see how you challenge that. I don't see how anyone challenges her.
How would she be going up against Galactus 1-on-1? What would that be like?
I don't even want Galactus, to be honest with you. I think Galactus is one of the most boring villains. He's
doesn't have an arc.
Like, the idea of Galactus is threatening. But the when you actually see Galactus, like even in the comics, like, what are you going to do? Punch him? What are you going to do? Unplug his button, his main plug or something? Like
what Squirrel Girl did.
I mean, okay. At least Thanos can fight back.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not, I know a lot of people are excited for Galactus. I'm not. I kind of, unless they do something where he can shrink himself down or something and fight people, because it's not a compelling villain, in my opinion. Put Captain Marvel against him, I guess, but I don't really care. I don't care. I'm sorry. And the last thing, Hulk, he didn't show up. Hulk did not show up.
He might as well have been Banner.
He was Banner. This entire movie, And Marvel, and this is going to be one of my other videos, Marvel has completely failed the Hulk. He didn't show up. He didn't show up in Avengers Infinity War, and he did not show up here either, except in the flashback in the New York scene or whatever. But this was all Banner. I think this was more one of those, this is what happens when Hollywood gets a little too involved. They just wanted to show more Ruffalo than they do the actual character. Because in an ideal sense, if we had the real Professor Hulk, right? Or let's just say a new perfect balance of Hulk, you would actually have like a third personality. Mm-hmm. You know, you wouldn't have any remnants of what Banner was, and you wouldn't have any remnants of like the mediocre, you know, the remedial savage that was Hulk. You'd have someone kind of in the middle. I would argue kind of like how the cartoons have done it, where you have a Hulk that just can speak better and articulate himself a little more, but he's still kind of primitive in a sense.
Yeah, he's a brute.
Yeah, he's still a brute, but you know, like he just becomes a jock or something, you know. And they didn't do that. They gave that up because they just wanted to give Ruffalo more face time, you know, and it's, to me, it was cheap. I think they left the Hulk hanging. Mm-hmm. To this day, Hulk has still never really gotten his full revenge. Yes, that's great. They gave him the snap or whatever, but overall, I think they failed his character. So those are my main gripes.
Was there at the funeral. Hulk could have just turned around and snapped him in half.
He would have.
Like, sorry, see ya. That would have been better. But
no, Eman, that's a really good point, and I didn't even really notice that. And what I'm thinking of is one of the ending scenes where the Avengers assemble, and you get all those types of chills. Everyone's coming together finally and ready to kick ass. And now that I think about it, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think Hulk really played an important role. Like they were showing everyone just beating ass throughout that whole scene, and I don't think Hulk really had a defining moment there.
Nothing. All he did was he saved I think because he was holding up a building, you know, as that was collapsing. That was about it. Yeah, that was about it. And then Ant-Man came and saved them when he turned giant. Yeah,
and if you're gonna have defining moments, of course, show everyone that's now back.
Right.
But also focus on the original 6.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you have to, especially if you're going to end out this whole 22 epic franchise of movies. I feel like you should have, and you had to do that, but that was a little bit of a disservice how they really didn't give Hulk a moment to shine at the end.
Well, they could have taken some away from him and given it to a few other characters even.
Yeah.
With a movie like this, you're never going to give everybody their due. Not everybody's going to be able to get their screen time, and I get that. But they could have cut out some of that. They could have cut out some of the stuff on Asgard because that was just kind of redundant. Like, I get it. Thor's fat. I wanted to go back to something you mentioned, Eman, which was the all women going into battle. And it's not my place to say that that's patronizing, but the right way to write women into a movie and to be inclusive of that is to give them something to do. And they did that well with Wanda, because she gets her showdown and she gets a chance to take some revenge on Thanos.
See, if they could do that with Wanda, you couldn't do that with Hulk. See, this is what irritates me. You do this with so many other characters, but you don't do it with one of the main people that actually... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. And, you know, Nebula was never really a massive character in these movies. Yeah. And they gave her this big arc. That was an interesting choice to have her be the one that survived the snap. And come back and serve a major role in this. Brick is in the chat saying that he would have liked it better if like Tony had modified her to be some kind of badass weapon against Thanos. I don't think that was necessary, but it's an interesting thought. Yeah. Speaking of Brick, though, he has a lot of bad takes. This one is exceedingly bad because he tried to convince me that the saddest part of this movie is Happy Hogan with Tony's daughter at the end of this movie, and that's not even in my top 5.
He was so distraught over that scene. I'm like, dude.
He was like, I think he was the person sobbing behind me in the theater when they played this. So
he'll give you any cheeseburger you want.
Mark, what was the saddest part of this movie for you?
Just Scarlett Johansson's performance with Jeremy Renner when they're getting the Soul Stone. That one hit me hard.
Okay.
Definitely.
I think if I had to pick one, well, first of all, this movie comes out just throwing haymakers right at your dick. Like that opening scene with Hawkeye and his family disappearing right in front of him.
Not cool.
Like, no wonder he went on a murder spree.
Yeah.
But the
odds were not in his favor at all.
No, of course not.
If you're assuming half, that wasn't half. That was what he had. His wife and was it 2 children or 3 children?
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah.
Damn, he got screwed.
He really got the short end of that stick. But the one thing that they gave Hulk to do is be really sad when he finds out that Black Widow dies, which that hit me kind of hard because, they had that arc that never really went anywhere. Mm-hmm. That was okay. Eman, what was the saddest part for you?
I think the saddest part was definitely, Tony's goodbye with the hologram and everything. Because then you just kind of get a feel for like the impact, that he's leaving. I hit hard.
The only problem I had with that scene, and if you listen to this show, you know that I hate Pepper Potts because of what she was in Infinity War and yelling at Tony for trying to go save the universe, calling him selfish or whatever. By the way, complete hypocrite because she shows up as rescue at the end of this movie. She's doing the exact same thing. And you got a daughter now. Like, you want to talk about selfish? Pepper Potts sucks. The only reason she showed up as rescue is so that she could be there when Tony Stark died. Nobody knows who that character is unless you read the comics. Nobody remembers Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
So even when she was briefly that was the problem I had with that. I thought, and this is obviously based on my hat, the Spider-Man had more of an impact to me. Mm-hmm. Let's clear the palette on this. Let's switch from saddest to biggest, badass, most goosebumpiest scene. Mark, what did it for you?
Let me throw it back to you. Let me think about this.
Okay, it's almost like you weren't aware that we were going to record an episode on Avengers Endgame this week.
No, there were the scene that I loved in this movie was obviously the Avengers Assemble. That just gave me straight chills, and everyone was just so giggity and high-fiving each other. But
okay, well,
that was the most badass scene in my opinion. But that's an easy cop out.
Yeah, for me it was Tony on your left when everybody comes back. And they built it up slowly, like Captain Strange. Doctor Strange comes through, and like Wong and everybody, and they slowly like ramp you up, like the Guardians come through, and then Spider-Man comes swinging through, and they're like ramping up to the most badass entrances.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Panther comes in with an entire army.
Yeah, so
that, for me, that was it. Eman, what about you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess since you guys took my other ones, I'll go with the more obvious one. My goodness. You lifting up that hammer? Whoo! I just gave myself goosebumps. When Cap got that hammer and he went to work, I know I was leading the charge in my theater. Like, I'm just yelling, screaming. That entire hour was just like amazeballs. Like, it was just a great cinematic scene that I don't know if we can ever replicate again. But yeah, lifting the hammer and really going to work on Thanos was definitely one of the many highlights in this movie for me.
When Spider-Man's swinging with the gauntlet, and then he activates death mode or whatever it's called. That was so and the eyes like changing and everything. I'm like, yeah, let's go,
kill them all.
It's like with this fucking spider legs. Holy shit, that was awesome.
I think from here, I'm kind of out of questions, so let's just talk about some cool shit.
Okay.
I have a question. Were you guys surprised that this is actually one thing I got right, and I never get anything right?
I can agree with that.
They were going to jump five years ahead, and I actually think I said 5 years ahead in the last episode. But were you guys surprised by that, Eman? I'm sure you really weren't.
Yeah, I didn't know the amount of time. Like, I didn't know, because to me, I don't think it mattered. Like, whether it was 5 months, 5 days, 5 years. I think that, it does matter, but I think that the impact, especially on an emotional scale, was going to be felt regardless.
Yeah, obviously.
I do think, however, though, because they went 5 years, so now the new president is 2023. Mm-hmm. That, in my opinion, solidifies Thanos as the greatest villain ever in any cinematic history, just period. He not only accomplished the most devastating blow in the universe, but it lasted for 5 years. That's
a hot
insane.
take. Best villain ever.
It has to be. I don't know what other villain that could do that level of devastation and make it last.
I guess I'd have to think about that.
I tried.
Marcus over here, like trying not to blurt out the Joker.
No,
I'm just saying, like, okay, yeah, Joker might have blown up a hospital or two, and I'm not talking about acting performance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the feats and the purpose of a villain.
The outcome, yeah.
The outcome, the impact, because that's what a villain basically does. Like, their whole purpose as the antagonist in a movie is to present a challenge for the heroes to overcome. Yeah. You know, now, Ledger obviously acted his ass off. There's no comparison there. But in terms of, like, on paper, what a villain has done and accomplished, my goodness.
Yeah.
Even Darth Vader ruling a galaxy or whatever, he didn't kill half the population of all life.
He went soft.
He was soft, you know? I mean, I'm sorry. It's just that I don't know of any other comparison on that scale that won. They won. They did their thing, and it is what it is. Man.
Were there any moments when they jumped 5 years ahead where you thought, like, oh, this isn't that realistic? Because I was sitting next to a guy that would always nitpick certain things, and he would literally blurt them out. When they were showing all the monuments, he was like, oh, you can't pick up the trash, but you can build all these fucking amazing monuments.
Oh, my God.
That's funny.
Leave.
How many people, though, do you think would have been, like, remarried, and then all of a sudden their wife shows up, like, knocking at the door, wife and kids, like, hey, did you forget about us?
Yeah. I really want to see that. Like, I want to see, especially because they said Far From Home takes place only a couple minutes after Endgame. I want to see, like, first of all, did half of Peter's class graduate?
Good point.
I think
That's a really good point.
And I saw a lot of this back and forth.
How did the snap people deal with the pre-snap people? You know, or unsnap people? Like,
and are the snap people? Are they older? Are they that 5 years older when they show up? They stay the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, the only person we recognized out of that whole class is Ned. And Ned obviously got snapped too.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that big of a deal. It would have been like Ned, Zendaya, Flash Thompson, obviously, I guess. But I don't know. It's just weird.
I just want them to address, because the thing is, this is a well-known event. Just like how the Battle of New York was like transforming for everyone on the planet, this happened across the galaxy. And it's something that, you know, because even Captain Marvel said that, other planets were affected by this too. The fact that it's going to have that ripple effect, that people will always remember the time where half of the population disappeared for 5 years. My good credit to Thanos again. Sorry. Go ahead.
Shout out Thanos.
Rick keeps texting me about this because he wants me to mention it. And it is a good point because I saw it too. But when did Rhodey have a chance after Avengers headquarters collapses to go get his Iron Patriot suit? Because he was in War Machine before that. And he comes back out.
I think that was a new suit, wasn't it?
I don't know. But where did it come from?
It looked different.
I mean, it's red, white, and blue. So I just assume Iron Patriot. But
you know, there's a lot of different things they could have done with that. I mean, because one question is, like, has he ever gotten an upgrade since? You know, because Tony's already on nanotech. And Rhodey is, like, stuck on Iron Man 2, you know, whatever mock that was. So
I can't believe they didn't give him the photon, the shoulder cannon from Marvel vs. Capcom.
They didn't give him that, did they?
I was surprised, but not surprised that how many of the Avengers were in that building at the time, like 8 or whatever, and the majority of them rely on suits or just their skills, not necessarily like strength or whatever to fight off any sort of destruction. But I was just surprised they all didn't really even have a scratch, to be honest. I mean, that's not necessarily true. Thor got out of there. Hulk. I mean, I thought they were going to kill off Rocket. Well, that's not surprising, but you have Scott Lang that was there. You have Ronan. You have Rocket. Yeah, Rocket. I don't know. I was just surprised because they were fucking.
I think Rhodey's the only one that, like, because he was pinned, you know, just as long as Rocket was.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they probably got some bumps and bruises.
Yeah.
You know.
But they're not going to kill anyone else.
They're superheroes.
Anyways.
Yeah. So. I'm more surprised because Scott was, like, right in the, like, he caught an explosion to his face.
Yeah.
That part, I was kind of like, why are you alive and why is your face normal? that part kind of got me, but
he was wearing the suit. He could have just hit the button real quick, but yeah.
I mean, that's a split-second reaction time, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk a little bit about Nebula, and I mentioned that they gave her a bigger plot line, which I'm okay with. I love Karen Gillan. She plays Nebula. She was really good in this. I thought we were going to get the real comic book throwback when she got her hands on the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
So in the comics, she does a snap of her own, and she basically turns into a god. Yeah. I thought that was going to be a major turning point right there. Would have been a nice little nod to the comic books. That's actually where, not necessarily a team up, but Thanos and the Avengers had to work together to bring down Nebula because she was so powerful.
That would have been an extreme, unexpected turn.
Yeah,
I don't think audiences, especially the casual audiences, I think they would have just gotten confused.
That's too deep of a cut.
It's too deep, yeah. And now the one thing I was hoping for that they would do, I knew maybe Nebula would have had the gauntlet or whatever, but like I know the one thing that they could have done was like just give her that moment where she gets a couple licks in. Yeah. You know, that's all you really needed in this movie was everyone that wanted a little payback. Even if Thanos beat you up later, you just got a couple licks in, you know. And she didn't even get that. So I was more surprised they didn't give her that level of satisfaction.
Instead, they let a rat save the universe. I loved in the 70s flashback montage. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie, I guess. I like that interaction between Tony and Howard Stark. Mm-hmm. I loved when they show Hank Pym's office and they go in there and he's got the giant old
classic
aluminum foil Ant-Man helmet. Yeah. That was so fucking cool. I was so happy they did that.
Love that.
Were there any certain... Well, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, were there any certain callbacks that really stood out to you?
I mean, you gotta look at Jarvis. Jarvis was there. If you watched... Oh, man, what was the Haley Atwell series? Peggy Carter. He was there, so he's a little bit older now. That would have been like 20 years later. There were sadder scenes there when Tony has to leave his dad, and his dad's talking about, you know, like, I don't know how I'm going to be a father, and that whole interaction. Brick, you are so wrong. God.
But he
not even hearing is pissing me off.
So the biggest reaction I think we had in my theater, besides the whole Avengers Assemble at the end, was actually when Captain America was in the elevator.
Oh,
and
so good.
I had to text Smithers because I missed it because he whispered
Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
And I missed that part because everyone already kind of knew what he was about to say and just started blurting out and clapping and shit. And I'm like, hey, what did he say? But that part was epic because you already know if you saw Captain America 2 what was going to happen.
And that was one of my favorite scenes in Winter Soldier. So I'm like, that comes up and I'm hyped because it's all the same people in the elevator.
Right.
That was excellent. And that was, I mean, credit to the writers. That was a brilliant callback, and it actually ties into the comics a little bit from Secret Empire. So that was really well done.
It ties into Batman vs Superman. They had that one villain, you know, with the flamethrower.
Shut up.
Batman fights off, standing in front of him.
Is Loki back?
Yes.
Think so?
I will give you a full video explaining why and how.
That is how you tease a video.
Man, look, I'll put it to you like this. I couldn't figure it out. Like at first I was like, okay, Loki escaped, whatever. But when I started thinking about the complications with time and the streaming service, and I was like, I figured it out. I got it. And it's going to be awesome. Like, you guys should, keep an eye out for that one. I don't think anyone's put this together yet.
We need it by tomorrow, Eman.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You're like, fine. You think I won't do it? I'll do it.
I mean, okay. Yeah.
So let's talk about that funeral scene. A lot of the questions that were being thrown out there were, who the hell is this kid? You recognized everybody else at Tony Stark's funeral except for this teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you look at the credits, you see the name. It's Harley Keener from Iron Man 3. Do you think he's going to be the next Iron Man?
I think he'll be close, I guess. Whatever. I don't honestly care. Like, to me, I don't think that you should, I think they should just focus on like the newer characters. Because now it's kind of like, do you really want to have someone trying to fill in the shoes of Iron Man this soon? I mean, the Bucky, the Falcon, Captain America one, that's fine because that was always kind of anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
You got the comic route. But even with the Iron Man stuff, I mean, like, it's not like Riri is going to show up.
Right.
You know, I kind of thought that they would do something with Shuri becoming Riri just because a play on the name.
I can see
but
that.
I honestly don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care.
Were you guys
not
both
at this point. It's too fresh.
Yeah. Were you guys both confident that it was going to be Falcon over Bucky?
Yeah.
I called it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was only because they doubled down on the White Wolf thing.
It made
if they
sense.
hadn't have done that, then I would have been like, maybe 50-50, but.
I could have sworn at the end when Cap came back, at first glance, that was Clint Eastwood. He looked exactly like Clint Eastwood.
He looks like Joe Biden now, though.
A little bit. So what's next? What do we think is coming next? Obviously, we know Far From Home's coming, Black Widow, we're getting Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, The Eternals, etc. What do you want to see next, E-Man, that hasn't already been announced?
Man, you know what? Oh, that hasn't been. Well, Shang-Chi was announced. I'm very, very curious about that because you can't go wrong with a kung fu flick. That should be awesome.
Have you seen Iron Fist?
Let's not go there.
You can go wrong with a kung fu flick.
That was kung fu? Was it?
It was supposed to be.
Okay. What I want to see. You know what? It's hard to say what I want to see because Marvel has left so many things open. And their streaming service, supposedly, the shows are supposed to be very integral into the MCU. So it's not going to be like as loosely connected as like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or even the Netflix shows, the Marvel shows were. Like these shows directly impact or at least supplement the movies. So it's interesting to see what they do with that because there is a lot of filling that they need to do.
Give me a character.
That's
just name a character that you want to see a movie for. You want an origin.
Silver Surfer.
Doom.
Let's go.
Dr. Doom?
Yeah.
I could get down with that. They would have to bring back Fantastic Four, though.
But I just
think people are ready for that?
You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. I mean, seriously, like who at this point, who's the next best villain you could think of to follow up Thanos? Because following up Thanos is a huge task at this point. And I think Doom is the only person that could own it.
Who would play a good, super over-the-top Dr. Doom? I'm thinking Nick Cage.
Or The Rock.
No, can't be The Rock. He can't be like so physically imposing. He has to be just a normal, unassuming dude.
I don't want either one of those. You know what I want? I don't want someone that's a huge, big name because then you're going to get into this. There's like this vanity issue in superhero movies where like if you're a villain or a hero, but let's just say like you're Tom Cruise or you're Brad Pitt or whatever, there's this need to keep showing your face. Even though your character is supposed to always be masked.
Like Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
Yeah.
You don't want to see Brad Pitt continually eating under his Dr. Doom mask?
I don't want to see Ryan, what's that guy's name? Gosling, refusing to eat cereal either. Like, I don't want to see any of that. Just give me someone who can give me a solid performance and they will be okay with having just their voice be, the lead. That's what I want more so than anything. Because if you start giving me a Dr. Doom with his mask off all the time, it's like,
that'd ruin it.
I don't like it. That's kind of what they're doing with the Hulk. They could have left the Hulk like the way he was in Avengers 1, but now he's got to look like Mark Ruffalo because everyone loves Mark Ruffalo.
And he blinks too much.
I don't love Mark Ruffalo.
Blinks way too often. Mark, do you have a character you want to see?
I said Silver Surfer.
Okay.
That's all.
I've gone on several rants about seeing Nova, Richard Rider, or Sam Alexander.
Nova should be cool.
I also want Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk. And I want to see her as an attorney. This would have been a perfect Marvel Netflix show, but I guess we're not going to get that now. Maybe we'll get it in Disney Plus.
I don't know if they have the rights to her, do they?
I believe they do. They got the Hulk, right? So,
well, they don't have him completely.
I think that they're
sharing that.
I mean, if they get the rental rights, though, I mean, we could still see Thunderbolts. If Thaddeus Ross is there, we could get Red Hulk.
That'd be cool.
I'd be okay with that. I'm going to open this up now, though, and give you guys a chance to go on whatever kind of rant or point out any other cool thing or thing that you hated right now before we wrap this up. What do you got, Eman? You can even just plug other videos that you're going to put out there or stuff that you've already done.
Look, I'm definitely gonna do a video on why Marvel throughout all these series have failed the Hulk continuously, time after time. I'm going to make a nice little connection with Loki and hopefully explain. I'll give you the title of it. Loki has pulled the greatest trick that no one saw coming.
Very nice.
And Avengers Endgame just confirmed it. You know, I'll definitely do a breakdown video of like the entire movie. I'm not looking forward to it, but I might have to explain time travel. Cause I do think that was that was the trickiest thing going into this movie. Like,
they did it wrong. It doesn't work. It doesn't work the way that they said it would. Otherwise, Captain America wouldn't have showed up again at the end.
It can. They just have to fix it. It can. So definitely, if you either one of you guys watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I watched like the first 4 seasons.
And you gave up after?
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fair. I mean, I gave up after the first season. And once Captain Marvel came through, I was like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. You know, and I was very, very impressed.
Okay.
Because it did get a lot better. And the 5th season actually deals with time travel. And what really compelled me about that whole season is I was like, well, if you guys handled time travel in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a certain way, then you have to do the same thing or at least apply similar rules in the movies. Because if they treat time differently in 2 different things in the same MCU, we've got a real big problem on our hands. So I did make a video trying to explain the time travel in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how it could explain the time travel in Endgame. And it is fairly close. Endgame added a couple extra twists and turns, but it can work. It's just messy, but that comes with all time travel. Any time travel is messy, period, because it deals with logical contradictions. So
me agreeing with you just makes me realize, like, we're just giant nerds, and I don't care.
Yeah, I've passed that point. Like, I've accepted it. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to doing at this point. I mean, I think Endgame opened up a lot of stuff, but a lot of this is just set up for the streaming services. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I did want to mention one other thing is you put out a video asking the question who the real villain in this movie is. Do you want to tease that a little bit?
Oh, man. That was interesting. The reason why I put that video out was I'm wondering if what Marvel did to Loki, if they'll do that to Thanos. And what they did with Loki is, on their official website, they gave out basically this retcon explanation saying that Loki had been motivated, to, take over Earth and, go on his villainous spree thanks to the power of the Mind Stone. Like, the Mind Stone corrupted him. So, I was wondering whether or not same thing happened to Thanos, because to this day, we still don't know how Thanos came upon the Mind Stone. He just acquired it, and we don't know how, we don't know why, we don't know when. And I do wonder if the Mind Stone pushed him to, doing his whole plan, on a larger scale. But yeah, I mean, look, you can check out that video. It's very nerdy. Very philosophical.
What do you think we've been doing here for the last hour and a half?
And I still think your videos are super easy to digest and they completely make sense. And I'm not the biggest Marvel guy, but when I want to know something and something looks interesting too, like when you put out all the theory videos, I go and watch them, and they're pretty easy to follow along with.
Good.
Which is
I'm glad, because I definitely don't want to lose people on certain things. You know?
You do a really good job at explling things. So yeah,
thank you, appreciate that.
I forgot to mention something else that I absolutely hated about this, and that was Falcon's facial hair. Because that was terrible. Terrible. There's a lot of bad hair going on in this. Jeremy Renner's hair was bad. Captain Marvel's hair was bad. They didn't even give her the mohawk.
I know. Yeah, it's a callback to the comics. I get that, but she just looked like the lady that's asking for a manager when they go in Walmart. She looks like that fucking mom.
The comics would have been mohawk. Oh. Especially if you're talking about the binary mode that she goes into.
Yeah.
Give her the mohawk.
They should have.
I don't know, man.
They should have kept him bearded Cap too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
This would have been better.
A lot of good beards. The only other thing I want to mention is that even though Tony Stark is a billionaire genius, playboy philanthropist, he still fucks up when he's doing the dishes and gets water all over himself, and that made me feel really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, good call out.
Anything else we got to say before we move on?
I don't think so. Do we want to rate this?
I mean, I give it a 9.5, 10 out of 10. It's
a see it for everyone.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Do you know anybody in your group of friends that won't see this at least eventually?
The majority of the group of my friends are the ones Eman was mentioning, where they're bitching about all the movies they have to see. I'm like, well, then don't go fucking see it. Don't just see it because you know everyone's seeing it.
Yeah.
Go fucking watch the movies and catch up. And I gave him some movies, including the ones that you mentioned in your video that you have to watch, like First Avengers, obviously Infinity War.
Yeah.
But there's so many of those people. I'm like, well, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you want to be a piece of this pop culture event, like, you can't just dip your toe in.
You can't just waltz in.
Like I said, it's Game of Thrones. You can't just come and watch the last season and expect to know what's going on.
Or to even appreciate it. Like, you're not going to get it. It's not for you. It's literally like walking into the middle of a joke. Yeah. And you're at the end of it like, I don't get the punchline. Well, you never got the setup either. So.
And that's your fault, and you suck.
Yeah. No one invited you.
Yeah, get out of here.
All right, so we will wrap up the episode as we always do with our weekly recommendations. I'll go ahead and kick this off, give you guys a chance to think about it. But the first 3 episodes of season 2 of One Punch Man are on Hulu right now.
Shit.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but I love this show. Can't wait to get into it.
I know what I'm doing immediately when I get home.
Yeah, did I just steal yours? Eman, have you seen anything non-Avengers recently, or have you just been making too many videos to even care?
Dude, I'm so... My life I'll probably know every piece of dialogue in Avengers by the time I'm done with all this, but before I started doing all this, I do recommend catching up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think that it's worth it at this point because the show is going to be coming to an end. They got like only 2 more seasons coming up. And one of the things that I really appreciated about them is that they stopped trying to chase the movies and just dedicated themselves to their own stories. And the characters, they take a lot of risks in this, especially in the last season. It's good. It's good. I would recommend just going back and finishing it.
Well, that's a recommendation for me. So, Mark, what do you got?
I'm big into all the foodie shows, like Chef's Table on Netflix, and they just came out. This is brand new. I think it came out like a day or so ago. It's called Street Food. And it literally goes to different parts of the world that are notorious for their street food, such as like Bangkok and stuff. But it's gives you some real cool background. And you see all that type of food when you travel and you're like, I'll never eat that in my life. And this show really makes you like regret that and want to eat.
Like bugs and stuff, or
not like that, but even like when they're like, I have a big problem if I see them cooking meats like out in the open. I'm like, hell no, like I'm not doing that.
You're not a street meat guy?
No, but
I'll eat that shit.
This really like there's
street meat.
There's a Michelin star street food stand
I'm all in on that.
And I'm just like, holy fuck, I missed out.
Yeah.
It's a 100%. Cool show, though. I'm like 2 episodes in, but I would go watch it if you like those kind of shows.
One other thing I wanted to mention, next week we'll be reviewing Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, which is coming to Netflix. It's the Zac Efron as Ted Bundy movie. Looking forward to that, so check that out on Friday and you'll be up to date with us. I don't know when we're going to do that. I'm getting married in a week.
Oh, man, congrats.
Thanks. So I don't know when we're going to do this episode, but we'll figure something out, right?
We'll figure it out, whatever. But
what's really important here?
We have some awesome week of movies coming up, don't we? We have John Wick 3.
Yeah, so many good movies. Aladdin next month.
Detective Pikachu,
which is my pick for big surprise of the year. I wrote that on glitchup.com. Yeah, so once again, Eman, thank you so much for joining us. Please go subscribe to his YouTube channel, Eman's Movie Reviews. You can find him on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Anything else you want to plug?
Forgot. I'm doing the giveaway. If you go watch my spoiler-free review for Endgame, check it out. I'm doing a giveaway. Not going to tell you what it is, but it's very powerful.
That is a good enough reason to go check that out. So
definitely.
Thanks to everybody who follows us on social media at the Chumpcast. Thanks to our Patreon followers, we'll have an episode 3 Game of Thrones wrap up. Man, what a good week this is.
Oh, it's
This was the most epic battle scene in Avengers up until the Battle of Winterfell tomorrow.
Best culmination of movie and TV in a week, I would say.
All right. So thanks again, E-Man, and until next time.
Jumps on, motherfucker.